very much. Thank you very much for coming. This is wonderful that you've sharing your time with us in this way. So, as I said, I want this to be a really interactive session. So I don't want to talk at you for ages, telling you about this project in huge amounts of detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of briefly introduce it, let you know roughly what it is we're doing, what we're doing, hopefully doing with you as well. And then we're just going to leap in and start doing some activities. And so I can get some feedback from you as well, because a large part of this project is an interactive, collaborative approach. So doing work with you and finding out your thoughts and feelings on it will be really, really useful for us. So we do appreciate that. To start with, so who I am. I'm a researcher on the GHIA project. My background is I have a PhD in archaeology and history. I looked at late Victorian Edwardian public parks in childhood. So parks are something, green infrastructure in cities, I've kind of been interested in right from the moment they began, particularly in somewhere like Greater Manchester. I was also a research assistant on the Whitworth Park Community Archaeology and History project. It's a large mouthful. So I don't know if any of you heard about that project, but we did a lot of community excavation work and ended up as well with a curated exhibition as well in the Manchester Museum, which some of you might have seen. And I'm also I'm a curator and heritage practitioner as well as doing this. So working alongside people and trying to work out the best ways of sharing information and working in a collaborative way is something which really interests me. Okay, so the GHIA project then. I want to preface everything I say here by saying it's a very large, quite complex project involving a lot of different people. So rather than go into huge amounts of depth about all the different work packages, the work streams, talking about some of the more scientific or geographical aspects, I'm going to give a very brief overview and then focus a little bit more on myself and Chris Phillipson, who I'm sure you know, and Jenna Ashton as well, are working on with our work package. Okay, so the project. We have researchers from 3 universities in lots of different disciplines. We've also got project partners from all over Greater Manchester, and they're coming together with a range of different expertise to try and understand the value of urban green and blue spaces for the health and well-being of older people. So what we mean by green and blue spaces, I'm sure that's obvious to you, but parks and gardens, trees on city streets, flower beds, the canals that we've got, obviously, and the streams and other waterways within the city. And that's what we're kind of collectively referring to as green infrastructure for this. So we all know that green and blue spaces can directly and indirectly impact on our health and well-being. The positive impacts of spending time with nature is something we're always getting told about. We'll have felt ourselves, and often health practitioners, your GP and stuff, will be talking about that as well. But the access to green and blue infrastructure in Greater Manchester is not shared equally. So there are people who get access to more and people who get access to less. And we're really interested in why that is. People over the age of 65 are most likely to suffer from poor health, and yet this group might be the ones who are least likely to use green infrastructure. They're least likely to have access or to feel that there are more barriers to access in those spaces. So I would probably struggle to tell you exactly what each of the co-investigators and researchers are looking at in the project, but these are the things that we want to achieve with this project. So we want to understand these benefits and values of urban green infrastructure for older people, and one of the ways we want to do that is by finding out directly from people. We don't want to prescribe that, we don't want to tell you what the values are, we want to find out from people. We want to investigate how green infrastructure attributes, interventions and specific greening projects can be used to support healthy ageing in urban areas. So not just things which are existing, but things which might come to be, things which can be changed, can be developed, where we can have interventions to improve access. To understand challenges of inclusion, access and participation, this is a really big thing for us, and particularly in our work package as well, which I'll come on to discuss. And that's one thing that we really want to work with people to help to understand what these access barriers are and try and overcome them. We want to consider how green infrastructure can be designed, enhanced, managed and promoted to support its use as part of preventative and treatment as well for a number of ageing-related illnesses. And we want to translate these research findings into policy and practice. So a large part of why we're doing this is we're working strongly with partners across the city, including at the council, in order to try and embed this into practice for the future as well. So really making a difference. So that's a sort of overview of the project as a whole. Where I'm involved is in work package 2. So it's divided up this project into 6 different work packages. And work package 2 is, to my mind, it's a really exciting one, but I would say that. So what we're doing is working alongside what we call co-producers in the community. So working alongside people to work with them to develop our understanding and to work with them to not just develop our understanding but actually do things as well. So we want to develop a programme of arts and heritage based activities in order to help develop and deepen our understanding of spaces and create a series of interventions which we hope might develop people's access, might overcome some of the barriers to participation and might help to resolve some of these issues that we've found. So we want to counteract some of the narratives of decline and loss which are associated with ageing, and instead to talk about transmission of skills and knowledge. And we want to do this in an engaging way so we can get people with us and participating in arts-based activities in order to share information and share knowledge and counteract these negative connotations. We want to encourage new encounters, new experiences, storytelling, curiosity and sensory engagement with space, and offering a kind of this reconsidered idea of ageing and how it's expressed through involvement with green infrastructure. So participation. I mentioned participation a few times there, but what does it actually mean? What is participation, and what are we asking people to do when we're doing it? Well, where we've come from is participation action research, we call it. And what that is it's a way of trying to, rather than put in two different opposing camps, a sort of idea of knowledge on the one hand and experience on the other, bring them together so that research is derived partly through experience, through interaction, through activity. So it's an approach to research that works with communities, that emphasises everyone's involvement, everyone's activity. It seeks to understand the world through interacting with it, not just standing back as a sort of dispassionate researcher, but actually engaging with it. And in that way, we're changing it as well. It's emphasising collective inquiry and experimentation, grounded in experience and social history. So the knowledge people have already acquired, bringing that to the table, and the differences of knowledge as well. And working with co-researchers from the community, direct research towards issues significant to those involved. Again, we're asking for people to share their expertise and their knowledge and insights in order to make sure that the action that we do, the research that we undertake, and the outcomes from it is targeted towards the people who use those spaces, the people who need it and who want it. And as I say, it sort of contrasts with other research methods which sees on the one hand sort of dispassionate researchers coming along and recording everything, and instead has a much more open, engaging feel to it, where actually we work together in a collaborative way. So I want to get started. Why sort of sit back, tell you all about this participation? I want to be able to now say to you, would you like to have a go? And see what it may look like to actually be involved in this sort of participation activity. So I've got a couple of different activities for you to do. None of them are going to involve you having to stand up and tell everyone else what it is and your knowledge, unless you want to. I'd be very open to that as well. But instead what I'd like people to do is to just start thinking about the green and blue infrastructure which is important to you, to the spaces which you already use. So for our first activity, there's some green and blue paper on your desks, and I would quite like if you would write down on separate pieces of paper between 1 and 4 spaces, green or blue infrastructure spaces that you use on a regular basis, so you might encounter in a regular week. And that could be, yes, sir.
What is a blue space?
A blue space, yes, of course. So a stream or a canal or a river, somewhere like Chorlton Water Park.
Like on a map?
Yeah.
Or what?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean,
I thought that blue collar.
Blue collar.
Industrial.
No, there's no class-based elements. So we use this term green infrastructure, but it's essentially just anywhere where nature is, really. I mean, whether that's to do with waterways or to do with, a flower bed that you might pass on your way somewhere else.
Blue seas.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So there could be, these don't have to be, you don't have to be writing down all the top parks that you visit, but just the ones you see on a day-to-day basis. The ones you encounter the most, and that could be trees in your street. It could be your garden or your allotment. It doesn't have to be these shared spaces. Does anyone have any other questions?
Thinking that partly how it's parks, you don't, if you see a tree in the street where it doesn't really register, is it more about parks and how it's building facilities and amenities for other people to enjoy, accessibility? It's just,
Yes. So we will. I think that's a quite typical response. We don't often see the things we immediately encounter, but I really want you to think about those things that you maybe don't think about. So maybe you do visit a park on a regular week, but where else are these green infrastructure spaces? Where are green and blue spaces around you that actually you see all the time? So I'd just like you to start with just maybe coming up with a few ideas of things that you do see all the time around where you visit and live.
That's brought to mind about 3 or 4 years ago. We next door got this great big sycamore tree in the garden, and we wanted to have it trimmed. It's now got a preservation order. I had to go to the council to get permission, and they won't give permission because they said it is a neighbourhood amenity.
Yes.
Because even though it's in a private garden, it benefits the whole neighbourhood.
Can I suggest, I'm going to hand around some post-it notes, because any time that a thought crops up like this, I'd love to record it. And so if something's occurring to you, I'd love to be able to take that away as well at the end. And unfortunately I can't be writing them all down now. So if I put some post-it notes on the table as well, if you have any thoughts of that sort, please do write them down. I'd be very, very, very pleased to look at them and continue looking at them as well.
I was just thinking of the negative green spaces where you see all the rubbish dumped.
Yeah. We're going to, so once you've come up with your spaces, we are going to sort of analyse those and talk about them collaboratively on our tables as well. So so these are great things that are coming up already. Then now thinking about that as well is great. What makes you want to be actively engaged with somewhere and not somewhere else? Why is it that you pick somewhere to gain that deep connection and actually that's the
Organisation there, it's because of Andrea really, we've got to the groups and I'd love to see what the things that are there in the area. And there was ourselves in that think about it, so unless there's kind of a group that then motivates you to
Relax together, to draw our thoughts together.
I think that's clearly producing an awful lot of discussion and thoughts. So That's wonderful, and thank you very much. I think that was a sort of icebreaker type of activity, but I think the ice was well and truly broken as we've begun. So that's great. I'd really like to move on to the next activity, if I may. So this next one is a map drawing exercise. So we have larger paper as well, but what would be great, I'd really like you to draw a map of the green and blue spaces that you encounter in your day-to-day landscapes. So where they are in relation to each other, where they are in relation to where you live, and how you get there. So basically a map of your day-to-day interactions with green and blue spaces. And once you've sort of drawn out this spatial mapping of where things are, I'd really like you to annotate those, to say things like, with those spaces, what are the thoughts and experiences you have had there? What are the sort of things you've done in that space? What are the issues you encounter, the challenges and the benefits you encounter in those spaces? So make it as big as you like and include as much information as you want. And I want to gather as much of a sense of those spaces, their character, as is possible from a map. So there's paper already there. I'm going to come around with some larger paper. There's pens. If you'd like other post-it notes as well to stick on them to annotate things, that'd be great. You can either draw in individual maps, or if as I know this group is, if you maybe use some of those spaces together, draw collaborative maps, work within a group to develop a shared map of the spaces you use. But you can do it individually as well. It's completely up to you. So I'll come around with this paper and over to you.
We can do one because we don't control it.
We're very, very lucky. We live in a very green area.
Actually on the road, no, there's trees all at the back.
To try and make those things sustainable, so it's not just activities that we turn up and do as a once in a lifetime thing, but actually support groups.
When you look at that, it's quite green.
In the Nigerian
It's the biggest problem for the country. That money could be spent on more.
Thanks. You love chimney pot market. My husband came from Hot Lane, right near there.
Near the wash house.
Oh right, he does talk about that.
Hot Lane is there to wash out.
My mum used to go out from them.
Well, he said his mother did, yeah, I never knew that.
That's what we have this beautiful day out, just travelling. Well, that's something I've just encountered.
We don't want to cut short conversations, but are we all right to pull some of them together?
Yes. Okay, so there's Pete. Everyone's got lots to say, and that's wonderful. Thank you very much for doing those. There's some incredible looking maps around there. What I'd really like to do just for a few more minutes is maybe to ask you some broader questions, and if anyone wants to share something which they've been talking about, or that's cropped up a few times, it'd be really nice to share them more broadly with the group as well. So, is there been anything which has sort of occurred to you as you've been doing these maps, which you maybe hadn't been thinking about before, or a space which you hadn't given that much thought to, which has suddenly stood out as being particularly valuable at all?
Rubbish, I suppose.
Yeah?
Rubbish. If you walk into green space, or you need to access the green space, it's just rubbish. So, and that's everywhere, or litter, isn't it? Yeah. Litter, rubbish. Fly tipping. Fly tipping, yeah.
We've got brownfield sites which are
been like that for 20 years.
Yeah.
The birds have been dropping seeds. It's now a meadow, well, 2 or 3 meadows with beech trees and grass and everything. But 5 years down the road, it'll be houses again.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I think that when you build new houses, well, if it's going to be a mix of high rise and low level, I still think they ought to build some green spaces in between, so that the occupants have a nice outlook and some, you know, and with flowers and trees, and so it makes them feel brighter and better in themselves. Because otherwise, I think everywhere becomes a concrete jungle.
Well, what appeared to me, I've written it down about public transport, is obviously public transport originally was to get people to work. Now we need public transport to get us to the green spaces, maybe, because as we get older, we're not quite as mobile sometimes. And has anybody thought of getting public transport, not having the green space as a destination, but at least having it so that public transport can take older people to the more green and pleasant lands?
Actually, I think we are all inner city people, if I'm not mistaken. I would love to know if you take this sort of seminar into a rural area, into a country area, and get their input on the items that
Sorry,
you bring
can't
in.
hear a word, sorry.
Oh, right, okay. Holding it, yeah.
Sorry, the point was just about, the point was just about,
I can't remember now.
the point was just about the fact that we're all living
Yeah,
in
we're
urban
in a city,
environments,
yeah.
and what responses we'd get from a rural area if we took the same questions
exactly.
ourselves.
In response to that, I mean, obviously the focus of our project is the Greater Manchester area, so we are very much focused on these spaces. But I do know, for instance, that they have done this sort of activity in more rural settings. There's been quite a few smaller scale projects done where, particularly where people want to expand community spaces, so small villages as well, particularly if there's redevelopment going on around those. But for our purposes, it is very much focused on this. But it's, I mean, to me, when I asked that first question about those 4 spaces, it surprised me how very quickly everyone went over 4 spaces. That there's such a plethora of places which even though this is a very urban context we're dealing with, there's still an awful lot going on in that way. Thank you. Has anyone got?
Possibly.
Yeah, please.
I think as you age, bladders don't need emptying more frequently, and I think toilets are a problem these days. It kind of limits where you want to go to and where you're prepared to go to.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. That is a point that our members also make about community laboratories, etc. Seating places as well. As we walk around everywhere, no matter what age you are, you need somewhere to sit or just to have a chat.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be, I think we've got to think more of, pathways and that are accessible for wheelchair users, and not only for wheelchair users, for parents with buggies as well, because well-being and getting out in the fresh air and accessibility starts from a very young age as well. We've got to think about keeping well right the way through our years, haven't we? From being little to older age maturity.
Cradle to grave.
Yeah. On that point, I just wondered if there were any of the spaces that you were talking about that would actually be somewhere you'd want to share, maybe with someone of the younger generation who you feel maybe doesn't have the same appreciation for that space that you do, maybe because of the memories that you've got with it, or the value that you've ascribed over the years. So maybe somewhere you've always visited. Is there somewhere that you've reflected on that actually you'd like to take someone else to? Maybe someone of the younger generation.
I do. I do some volunteering at a centre in Wally Range, and we planted an orchard there, and as part of that we worked with a school group, local school group, and they came along and planted part of the orchard as a peace project that they were working on. And it was really good.
Our group, sorry, the group that I've been working with are all these people, lovely people here, and we're developing a green space just at the sports village. They've got lovely, well, the flower bed, they are nice flower beds now, aren't they?
They will be.
They will be. And we've been doing some intergenerational work with the nursery, with the local nursery, which is just there in the building. So we've been working alongside them, and I just think it's good to give them, working together is really good for them, for all of us really. So that's what we've been doing. Anybody else want to say anything? No?
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's a couple of examples of things we've been trying to do in Moston, and one of them is making the spaces accessible for forest schools. So we tried to get a local primary school, train some of the teachers up in having an outdoor classroom, and the kids come every week and play and learn in the woodlands. It's not a big site, it's a small site. And the other thing that we've done is we got some funding on a local history theme for an artist to carve an aeroplane, a deconstructed aeroplane, which would be a C, because we're near Chatterton, which is where British Aerospace were. And so as part of that, we're doing some wood carving sessions with the children. So rather than do it as a history lesson, we're going to do some practical stuff with them to try and get them to come out on the site and see the end product.
Good idea.
I just want to say about as my granddaughter was growing up, I would show her the flowers. I'd go in our garden and she used to, go up to them and look at the petals and things. We'd walk down the canal, sometimes. Go to different parks, of course, as you do when they're small. But I think she does have now a good understanding of green spaces, and she's using part of it within her art project for GCSE student, birds and things. And I think it's just as you speak to them as they grow up, if you're engaged in it, you can't help but talk to the younger generation.
Yeah. There's a lot to be gained from sharing those senses, isn't there?
I was talking about the nursery earlier on, which is connected to the local sports centre where we've been working from. But the children in the nursery, they can access the playing fields, they can access the river banking, they can access the park space, so that gives them I think it gives them an early, start in life and think about their green space. They also are involved in litter pickup, so taking care of their green space as well is really important, I think, and it starts, very young. So that's when, some of the work that we've been doing.
Thank you. So just a final question before I let you all go as well is in terms of I asked you a little bit at the start if you could make one intervention. I know a few issues have cropped up, but if you could make one intervention in the space to make it better or more suited for you or to improve it in some way, what would that be? Does anyone have any thoughts they want to share on what that intervention might be?
I think I'd like to see the paths through parkways well maintained, and I do think that there should be level routes always available, because one place I'm thinking of in particular where I think it's lovely to take children would be at Peel Park, but a number of the paths around there are quite steep and I think they're intimidating to use. Certainly, you wouldn't be able to take a young family there where you were having to use a buggy. And it's got to be right for both elderly people, people that are using walking aids, and mothers that are taking toddlers through them, so they can all enjoy the same experience. Yeah. Oh, God.
Are there any other interventions? Yes. Just wait for the mic running.
The only thing I would say, and I don't know how you do it, is stop the fly tipping in such beautiful areas. I just cannot understand why people do it.
We have a Hodgfield primary school,
right?
And there's a West Point garden. The school has adopted the garden, and all the residents have joined in because they all live in the area.
Okay.
Maybe the schools could be, could adopt a garden and look after it. And we get free seats from Woodland Trust.
Yeah.
And everybody gets together. Now we have picnics and jumble sets and all sorts there.
Yeah. Yeah. Educating people, but working as well in more community ways as well with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say education as well, because I think some children would kind of stamp on flowers, so I think it's important for them to know how long it takes for a seed to grow.
Yeah.
And also some parents, I think, I was talking to some of the nursery workers, and they were saying the parents complain when the children come home with mud on their clothes.
Yeah.
So I think it's important education that they realise the value of playing in mud and coming home dirty, rather than complaining about,
In other words, educate the parents.
Do you work for washing machine?
I think that's we've taken up quite a lot of your time. Thank you all so much for taking part, for sharing your stories and things as well. It's been wonderful for me to hear as well, and I hope it's been nice for you to share them as well. We're really keen to do more of this sort of activity, to uncover more of these stories, the things that I kept saying, please write that on a post-it note, because I would really like to do more work where actually I get to record everything as well, and so we can really take on board the sort of things you're saying and work more closely with you. If it's something you'd be interested in doing, in sharing more of your thoughts, in being involved in the project, helping us to produce something of value, then we'd really appreciate it if you'd send me an email, or if that's not possible, come up to me and I can give you other contact details. If you get in touch with me and just let me know in what way you might want to be involved, and even if it's just in terms of you'd just like to be kept updated as well, do let me know, because we'd love to work more with you as well. Does anyone have any last questions before I... Yes?
What's going to happen with the information that you gathered today?
So the information we've gathered today we'll just be using in order to shape our approach. So none of the reflections that you've made so far will be go forward into anything, because we need ethical approval before we do anything more in depth. So that's why I've just asked you to do post-it notes to help shape our opinions rather than me record everything. We are in the process of getting ethics approval for more in-depth work to happen, but that will, as I say, that takes time to do. So if you want to be involved, then we'd let you know about all of that process, and the sort of activities that we come up with will be with you as well. So we'd want people to feel comfortable in every way, the sort of information that they do share, if they go on to be part of the project as well.
But what are you going to do with the information?
Okay, so
what's the end result, or the end idea?
So
are you going to alter the green spaces? Are you going?
Yeah, so we'd like to. There's a few different things. So as the overall project, we want to come up with a toolkit, basically, that will a set of things that can be done in order to improve the way that people can have access to, the way people can use green infrastructure. So we want to come up with something real and tangible at the end of the wider project. But in terms of this sort of co-research, co-participation, what we want to do is a series of activities. So they could be a green intervention, it could be something like we go, I don't know, flower bombing somewhere, we go, do something of that sort of nature, or it could be more of an arts-based activity. So what we'll do is basically we want to gather your thoughts on those, and we will together work to shape a series of activities. So that's outside the project, shaping a series of a programme of activities to do, and then that will then go forward into informing our work that we're doing alongside our project partners, people at the council, in order to create this toolkit to hopefully change the way that the provision is done in the future as well. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Getting there. I think we're still at very early stages of the project, so we are, this is a work in progress as well. Chris, is there anything you'd like to add on that at all?
No, I think that's right. I mean, I think the last point is right, that, part of it is to influence City Council and Greater Manchester and have environmental issues and their role in contributing to quality of life higher up the agenda. I mean, there are other areas, of course, in the debate about the impact of pollution, which is very severe on people at both ends of the age spectrum. So these interventions and thinking about the role of environment in terms of quality of life is extremely important, not just in terms of leisure, but in terms of the real affecting people's health in some cases. And as Manchester grows and develops more economically, I mean, the issue about the quality of life in terms of the environment, I think, will become more important. So, great to have your involvement.
Thank you.
Can I just ask how this project links with the Ambition for Ageing project?
No, it doesn't at the moment, but one possibility clearly would be that if local delivery leads or a particular locality was interested in developing a project, then I think we'd be very interested in that. So that may be further down the line that there is some linkage, but they are quite separate activities at the moment. But so they could work together.
Okay, I think we'll wrap it up there as well. Thank you again so much for your time. If you do have any final words, do leave them on post-it notes on the table, and I'll really enjoy going around and reading those as well. So thank you very much.
Can I ask everyone, there are some evaluation forms. It would be very useful if you do have the time to stay behind and just fill them in quickly for us. Our next seminar scheduled is May the 17th, and we've got Piers Dawes, who's going to be talking about visual and audio impairment. So please do join us for that. And we've also got a seminar which we haven't got the date scheduled yet, which is going to be looking at intergenerational hubs. We've got someone from London who's looking at setting them up in Manchester. So more details about that will be available later. But it's the 17th of May, we've got Piers Dawes, and it's here, yes. And I believe it's a 2 o'clock time as well.